Hello everyone. Today we're going to be working with the core location and MapKit frameworks to do some location services. This is the type of stuff that you'd want to do in any application where you want to track the user's location, show them some data based on their location, maybe show them a map or a map of things around their area, something like that. We're going to go over all that kind of stuff and what it takes to do all of that today. So let's start off with a single view application. And I'm just going to call it location fun for now, and we're going to make it for the iPad because I just like to use larger maps. It looks prettier, things like that. And we're going to use automatic reference counting because it's nice. And let's move on. Create the new project, and now we're given a blank slate with the view controllers, the nib, the project file, and these are the frameworks that it comes with out of the box. But today we want to mess with core location and MapKit, and we need to import that. To do that, we go over to build phases and link binary with libraries, and we're going to choose core location, and we're also going to choose MapKit. And what this is going to do is it's going to tell the compiler that we need these frameworks in our application. There is also one other thing we need to do. We need to add to the required device capabilities. We need to add 2 strings, and what this is doing is it's going to restrict any devices that don't allow for this. So we're going to add a string that says location services. Whoops. This is something that'll trip up a lot of people because they forget that they need to add these lines, and then people will be downloading their apps and they won't work, and they'll be like, why doesn't it work? And this is the reason why. And you also want to add here GPS. So location services and GPS, there we go, that's all we need. Now let's move our 2 frameworks to the frameworks folder, and let's go into our view controller and start messing around. So we know that we're going to be using core location and MapKit, so let's import them here. I like to use text expander, but you can write this out manually if you want. Import core location and MapKit. Okay, so when we start with core location, there's an object that Apple's made that gives you all of the location services in one object, and you know what they call it? CL Location Manager. And this will return all the location-based things that we need, such as did enter region, regions, location, heading. We'll get into all this stuff really soon. Okay, and let's also save a coordinate 2D, which is basically just a latitude, longitude of the user location, just for now. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go into our .m, and let's clean some of this up. We don't really need all of this right now. Let's take out all this stuff down here. We might need it later, but we don't really need it right now, so let's take it out. Okay, now let's go into our view-did-load function. Now, if we're going to start using core location, we need to know if the user has allowed for that in the settings app. So the way to check for that is a core location manager delegate. Not delegate. Class function called location services enabled. And what that's going to do is going to return true if the user allows for apps to check their location, false if not. Let's just put a little thing in here so we know if the user doesn't want us tracking. User does not allow location services. And you'd want to, if you're making a real app for production or for anything, for the App Store, you want to do some other kind of, some other notifications here. Maybe set an alert saying that they need to allow for this in the settings bundle. There's a couple different ways to go about this, but let's just stop here. So now that we know that the user is allowing us to check their location, let's take our location manager and make an instance of it. oops, CL location manager. It's Alec and it one. And now there are a few things that we're going to need to set on here. The first one is that we're going to have to set ourselves to be the delegate. And we need to add that to our .h file that we are capable of being a delegate. And now I found this very helpful. You know, when you make yourself a delegate of an object, there's a lot of functions that come along with it, and you can always see what functions they are by checking the the developer portal, or right-clicking here and jumping to definition, and looking through each one explicitly. But that takes some time, and when you do this a lot, you'll find that it's really helpful to, if you use Text Expander or Type It For Me, to have a little macro for CL. I call it CL delegate, and what that does, it'll place all of the delegate functions in here automatically for me, so I don't have to remember to go back to do it every time. It's real quick and easy. I have them for table view and a lot of delegate functions that you use commonly. So let's go through these, and I'll tell you what each one does. The first one is the standard callback for the standard delegate function for when a user's location is updated. And we don't want to be updated every time the user moves a meter or two. We want to be updated every time a user moves a certain amount, which we can set, and we'll set in a couple of minutes. Their CL Location Manager provides a heading, so you can see which direction the user is going in. We're not going to use this. And a heading calibration, which is, if you've ever seen it, you've probably seen this before when you use the Maps app. They ask you to do a figure eight with your iPhone because it can't determine which way you're looking, and we're not going to use that either. We'll probably use region, which is nice. This one did enter and did exit region. You can specify a region, which is a center point and a distance. And if a user enters into that region, you'll be alerted, and you can do something in that delegate function. Did fail with error. This is a nice function to determine why things aren't working. I'm just going to put in here a little log so that we can, just in case we need to know anything, we'll be alerted. Error. And then we're also going to need, we don't need monitoring did fail for region with error. We can maybe use that. We're not going to use that right now. Did change authorization status. That occurs when a user revokes access to location services for your app. We're not going to bother with that right now, but it's something you'll need. Did start monitoring for region. That's a nice function to have. We're not going to really use that today either. So we're left with did update location from location, and did enter region, did exit region. All right, so first thing we want to do is up here, we need to set a distance filter. And basically what that is a distance in meters of how often you want that delegate function to be called. I'm going to put 1,000 meters. So basically what this says is every time the user moves more than 1,000 meters from the last time I knew their location, tell me their location again, and then this function will be called. So I'm going to use 1,000 because I'm going to be liberal. I don't really need to know exactly where they're at. And we need to set one other thing, the desired accuracy. Now this is a big thing to consider because most developers are coming here and they'll look at the framework and they'll automatically think, oh, I need to know the most accurate location for my app all the time. And this is a problem because it uses a lot of resources to determine the best location. And most of the time, you don't really need all of that. You really don't need to know exactly where the user is. Like, take for example, if you had a weather app and you just need to know where the user was roughly, you don't really need to know exactly where they are to determine which area code they're in, which zip code they're in. So you'd want to use something like kilometer to determine where they're at or which zip code they're in, and then deliver them the weather. We're not going to do a weather app, but I'm going to use kilometer anyway, just because I like saving the user some battery. That's nice. And we're also going to, so now that we set it up, we're going to need to start it up. And there is a corresponding location called a corresponding function called stop updating a location, which you should be calling if you no longer need to know the where the user is. If you move into some other part of the app where it's not necessary, you only want to check the location when your app really needs it. So now that we have that, let's put a login here so we could see the location that's being given to us, and let's run it and see what we get. Now, you'll notice right away that when the app runs, it's going to ask the user if we're allowed, if the user would like for us to use their location. And for some apps, this is completely necessary, like Maps or something like that. But for some apps, users may not want you to use their location, so they may say no. You need to set precautions for that, because that happens very often. And also note that you can't just get the user's location without them knowing. They're going to have to explicitly give you permission to view where they're at. So we're going to say yes, and let's see what it gave back to us. So it updated location and it gave us these coordinates. And what this is the actually the location of Apple headquarters. And when you're using the simulator, you can go to debug location and choose different locations, custom locations. I chose Apple just because it's a nice spot to choose. And there you go. That's how you would start with getting a user location. Just that easy.